Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family physician, and in the next hour, I'm going to be chatting with a woman I've known for some time now who has been eating only meat for 13 years, the last 13 years of her life. And it has done some very unusual things to her body. And I'm going to bring her on in just a few minutes. I want to give you a little bit of warning in advance that the changes to her body over the last 13 years have been significant. Some people would say they've been terrific or terrible, depending. I want you to see what can happen to the human body when you eat only meat for 13 years. I've been eating only meat for almost 4 years. And if you've been following my channel for a while, you know kind of what's happened in my life as far as how it's changed my body, my mental health, etc. Some people think I'm as crazy as ever. Other people notice a distinct change. And my guest this evening is Kelly Hogan. We've been good friends for quite some time, but it's concerning the changes that have happened to her physically and mentally after eating only meat for 13 years. And so I'm going to be showing some before and after pictures of Kelly. You're going to be able to see her on the screen, how she looks now after 13 years of eating only meat. And I should have her up and ready to introduce her to you in just a few minutes. I see we've got a few Kelly Hogan fans in the house. Welcome, you guys. If you know anybody who's currently suffering from being overweight, being obese, being severely obese, 100% please share this video with them alone, or you're welcome to share it on your favorite social media. The effects of eating just meat long-term, many doctors are concerned about this. They're concerned about cancer. They're concerned about heart disease. They're concerned about that red meat might cause diabetes. Many doctors are concerned about that. Many doctors are concerned that eating only meat will cause heart disease. And so I wanted to bring this woman on who's been eating only meat for the last 13 years and let you hear her story and see what this unusual diet has done to her. And so you may be a little shocked when you see the current state of her health. And full disclosure here, I don't want this to be triggering for anybody. But these pictures are stunning. These pictures are, I'm trying to think of the appropriate adjective without triggering anybody, but these pictures are the difference between before and after. It's many doctors would be very concerned that she's been eating only meat for 13 years. So if you have anybody who's considering a low carb, keto, ketovore, carnivore diet, please share this video with them. If you know anybody with type 2 diabetes, fatty liver, metabolic syndrome, or obesity to any degree, you probably want to share this video with them right now. There's a button right down there, says share. You click it, and then you can share it to your favorite social media. You can send it in an email, a text. I guess you could send it in a letter, but it would take a while, to get there. We probably wouldn't be live by the time it arrived. I'm waiting for Kelly to join. Yeah, Linda says, was there a reason she ate only meat? 100%. There was a list of reasons, Linda. And when I get Kelly Hogan, here she comes now. Once we get her set up, she's going to tell you the reasons that she decided to eat only meat. And she started some would consider it a very concerning reason why she started eating only meat. Other people would think it's a perfect reason to start eating only meat. Alexandra says, is it okay for somebody who's had the gastric sleeve? Absolutely, 100%. Alexandra, this diet is safe and fine, but I think you might be shocked when you see what it's done to Kelly Hogan. There are many doctors and dietitians and nutritionists out there all around the world warning people not to eat a carnivore diet, warning people you can't do that. This is potentially very dangerous for you. And so I wanted to bring Kelly Hogan, my friend, on and show you what the carnivore diet for the last 13 years has done to her. Some of you may be disturbed by how she looks now. Some of you may be triggered. Some of you may have a positive feeling about what this meat-only diet has done to Kelly Hogan. So let me see if I can get her up here now. There she is.
Oh my gosh, Dr. Barry, you told me 7 o'clock Eastern Standard.
I know. Please forgive me. I am terrible with time.
I forgive you 100%. But thank goodness I was dressed. But I just put food on the table for the kids. I was like, gotta go. Whew, sorry,
yeah, I'm so sorry. I promise I'll pay you back. Please forgive me. I thank you so much for making this small sacrifice. I was just telling everyone that you decided roughly 13 years ago to just eat only meat. And a lot of people were really concerned at how your health must be now. Yeah. You must have colon cancer and heart disease and probably type 2 diabetes. And, you certainly should be severely obese because everyone knows meat makes you fat. So this is my good friend, Kelly Hogan. If you guys don't know her and follow her, you need to check her out. I've got all her links down in the show notes. Kelly, tell us the story about the concerning way that you were advised to start eating only meat, and the reason why did you start that? What was wrong? Why did you think that crazy diet would help you? And what has been the result over the last 13 years?
Well, I really didn't think it would help me, as a matter of fact. But when I first went to my doctor for, oh my gosh, I'd been there so many times. He was a family physician named Dr. Benjamin Dunlap. He is now almost 90 years old and still in good health, by the way. But 17 years ago, I went to him to have another boil, Lance. So I was getting boils on my legs, my thighs, my bottom. It was terrible. And I would have to go to him to have them drained and packed. It was awful. Yes. Okay.
And I'm going to be showing some before pictures of Kelly. And it's actually very, very common for people who are severely obese and to have just chronic recurrent boils under their armpits, in their groin, under their breasts, anywhere basically that skin touches skin. It's very, very common to have these boils. So continue, Kelly. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, it's okay. So I went to him to have yet another one lanced, and I had one on my leg that was so bad that the day that photo was taken, I was at Bible school, by the way. I don't normally walk around with a puppet. But I was leading Bible school, and I could barely get up on the stage because I had cellulitis, a big patch around one of these boils, and it was hard to even get up the steps. Age 25. And I went to him again, and he said, well, Miss Hogan, we're just going to keep doing this till one of us dies, or until you lose 100 pounds.
And what about this picture, Kelly? What's the story with this picture?
I was at the Biltmore House in Asheville that day, and I just remember feeling really cute that day, but I don't still have a ton of photos because a lot of times when I would get pictures back, I was embarrassed. I would get rid of them, and I didn't pose for a lot of photos, but on that particular day, I was just with some friends and had a photo taken. But the reason that last photo with the puppet was so memorable is because that day I had just come from the doctor, and he had told me, you've got to lose 100 pounds. And that was the day that I cried. And he said, and I said, I don't know how. I've tried eating less. I've tried running.
Do you know roughly what you weighed in this picture with that kid?
260 pounds. The highest ever saw, 262.
And you're how tall?
Oh, 5'8.5", almost 5'9".
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, I was a pretty big girl. It's overweight. And I felt lousy back then. It wasn't just the boils, but I really just didn't feel good. And so that particular night, I'd hobbled up on stage and I thought about what the doctor had said. And he had said to me, it's the carbs. Well, this was 2004. And my response was, I've heard of carbs, but I'm not really sure what that means. And so he explained, and I said, well, what can I eat? Because he listed so many things that I had been eating. Then he said, no, cereals and pastas. I thought cereal was like the way. I had eaten so much cereal because it was fat free. You skim milk like a good girl, and couldn't figure out why I was still so overweight. And so he said, you can eat all the meat that you want. And I said, but how many calories? And he's like, I do not care. I literally don't care. And he said, I also don't care if it's your birthday. Just eat meat. You can eat dairy. He did say I could have diet soda. And he said, if I wanted leafy greens or pickles, cucumbers, he said, quote, it won't kill you.
Right.
Well, I've never been much of a leafy green kind of girl, so I definitely did not lean on the leafy greens, but I was like, steak? Like ribs, chicken wings. You know, I started listing off all the really good ones. Bacon? He's like, yes, have it all. So I thought it was kind of nuts the first time I heard it too. And I called my dad on the way home and I said, wait a minute, I forgot to ask him, are potatoes carbs? And my dad was like, yes, dear.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Potatoes are carbs. I was like, dang. But the rest
so
of
you got this advice from your doctor.
I did.
And I find it ironically hilarious that his name was Dunlap.
Dunlap. Yes.
Because in the South, yeah, that's what when we say somebody's suffering from Dunlap, that means their belly Dunlapped over their belt. And so Kelly, you started this because you were obese.
Yes.
And you had recurrent bouts of boils in very uncomfortable places. You had recurrent bouts of cellulitis.
Yeah.
And you said, okay, fine, I've tried everything else. What diets had you tried that you maybe lost a little, but it came right back and you just failed over and over again? What diets? I want you to name names.
Okay. So when I was in high school, I determined that I wanted to be thin so bad for prom. And so I went on what I invented was the lean cuisine diet. I allowed myself one lean cuisine per day. So this is extreme calorie restriction. And of course, I lost weight. Nobody can keep this up. I don't even know how many calories in our lean cuisine. I don't know, what, 400 maybe? I should look.
Not many. Yeah.
Not many. And if I got too hungry, I couldn't take it. I would allow myself one pack of Carnation instant breakfast. The end. That's all I did. And I lost weight. And then, of course, we all know what happens. I got very hungry. You can't live that way. And I would binge. This is where binge eating started for me. It almost always for people starts with restriction because your body is trying to survive. It says, oh my gosh, we're dying here. So when we do get food, we're going to eat it all. And I did. I gained back that plus more every time. And I would try this again and again and thought, gosh, what's wrong with me? I went off to college and I had a meal card. It was called a CAP card where I went to school and we had buffets. It was basically just all these cafeterias with all you can eat food. And I gained about 50 pounds in college, got married straight out of college, put on some more weight. You know, it just kept going. So I tried a lot of calorie restriction. I did try cutting out meat because everybody says of course, meat is the problem. I never officially joined Weight Watchers, but I paid attention to the numbers on food. Low fat. I grew up in a household where my parents were taught fat was bad, so they taught us fat was bad. It was all of the snack wells, all of the snack wells.
Yeah, there are 100 calories per serving. So how can you go wrong, right?
Oh, how could I go wrong? Well, I sure did. I ate lots of them. I guess that's about it. Mostly, I was just convinced it was all about fat and just calories.
Yeah, exactly. And so lean cuisine did not cut it for you. And did you ever have an A1C check back then or any kind of blood work that may have given us a hint that you were developing prediabetes, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance type 2?
So I do not know. I'm sure something was checked at some point. And sadly, all right, this is great news, but bad news. So at my doctor's office, once I was cured from the boils, I stopped going to the doctor. I still went to my OBGYN because I was having babies, but I didn't go back and see this guy for like 4 years, Dr. Dunlap. I mean, I had a couple of visits. He declared, wow, your blood work. He said, you're now my healthiest patient. Awesome. I didn't get sick. I didn't go to him. Well, he was preparing to retire. He got rid of all of his like stale patients that weren't coming regularly. the files are gone. So I don't know. I still have the last several years because I would go and check in with them, but I don't know. To my knowledge, I didn't have anything. I was never told I was pre-diabetic.
I got you. Now, I've seen this question several times in the comments.
Okay.
I'm sure that 13 years ago when you started eating only meat, you thought, well, I better eat the best quality meat in the world. So I'm sure that you started out 13 years ago and you've continued to eat only grass-fed, grass-finished, panda massage, non-GMO, organic meat. Is this right? Or tell us about the meat that you ate. Give us some examples of meals.
All right. Well, at age 25, I was a very young, newlywed. Well, not quite newlywed, but I was young. I was a teacher. My husband was also a teacher. No, I was eating the cheapest things I could find, short of like dollar store hot dogs or something. Yep. And I ate some of those too. I was eating a lot of McDonald's burger patties because I was just busy and it was easy. And I looked it up. I was like, that's literally beef, salt, and pepper. And they'll cook it for me and hand it to me in my car.
Yes.
Well, I don't love cooking. So I did that a lot. Oh, Dr. Berry, a lot. Almost every day for 10 years, I was eating at least one meal was a pound of McDonald's burger patties. And my blood work was like phenomenal.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize, but the big, let's see, Whataburger, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, and Five Guys, they all claim under threat of lawsuit that their meat is 100% USDA prime. Like you literally could sue them for fraud if you find out that's not true. And I have to admit, very commonly, if I'm in a rush, Neisha and I are headed somewhere. Neisha says hi, by the way. She misses you. We will go through Wendy's or McDonald's. And now one time I made the mistake of getting Big Mac patties because, it says Big Mac. I mean, you think it's a lot. No, they're literally paper thin. Don't do that. Get the 1/4 pound patties. And I get 4 of those, sometimes with cheese, usually with not. And they're already peppered and salted perfectly. And you can eat those with a little mustard or plain. Is their beef grass finished and non-GMO and organic and panda massage? No, it's not. But I mean, let me show you another before picture of Kelly. That's back when she was eating lots of plants.
Yes, it was.
Yes,
in fact, I was trying extra hard right then because that photo, though it looks like a funeral, I was actually at my engagement, my wedding shower to get married. This was right before I got married. And I remember wearing that dress because it's clearly very flattering. And the dark color, it was fitting.
Very strategic.
Thank you. And I loved that dress. I wore it many times. And looking back, I think, gosh, I really do look like I'm going to a funeral more than my wedding shower.
Now, I'm getting a lot of questions about your workout schedule. Again, this is Kelly's before. This is what year roughly, Kelly?
That was 2002, right before we got married, 2002.
2002. So I'm sure that you started soon after this picture. You probably joined the gym and you spent several hours a day working out to try to cancel the bad effects of eating an all-meat diet and also to lose weight. Is that what you did?
All right. The first few years that I did this meat with some pickles, okay? Meat and pickles. So almost totally carnivore, though I don't completely count those years because I did have some pickles and diet soda. But during those years, for about 3 years, I lost the 120 pounds. And the only thing I was doing was walking.
Walking. Okay.
Walking. Now, 2 years after that, I decided, you know what? I want to get a little bit of muscle tone. So for about 2 years out of the past 17, I actually went to the YMCA and I did the elliptical. And I took some classes there. And I worked pretty hard during that 2 years. But I had already lost a lot of the weight. And then once I started full-blown carnivore, that was 2009, where I dropped the last of the pickles. And I wasn't drinking diet soda anymore. And I consider that like, full blown, no diet soda at all. I have not gone to the gym since. I do walk. I try. This silly watch tells me if I've gotten my 10,000 steps, and I try to do that. And that's it.
I love it. I love it. So vigorous exercise was not really part of your weight loss regimen.
No, it was not. No.
Gotcha. And now I'm getting a lot of questions about, well, I'm sure she has a lot of redundant skin, a lot of loose, floppy skin. And so I'm going to throw this picture up. This is, you
Cover
said
your eyes, children. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so you guys can see all the redundant, loose, floppy skin that Kelly has here. Yeah. So,
now, did I at any point? I did, Dr. Berry, because
sure.
there is no way to lose 120 pounds and not have loose skin. And it's still, it's not perfect. You know, that picture didn't end up on the cover of any magazine right there. Although you and I both have been on Women's World, but I was fully clothed. And so were you.
Yes. Yes. I feel like the bikini picture should be on the cover of Women's World. I'm sorry. I really do.
Thank you. But that loose skin, it took years. So when I hear people say, well, my loose skin isn't going to go away, I've heard people literally say it's not going to go away. I'm like, you don't know that.
That's
if
right.
You have a really, like, if you are not eating the carbs, the sugars, the seed oils, the junk, there is still hope that it could tighten up because it took a long time. And then I kept having babies. So, you know, you get more loose skin.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah. Well, now you bring up babies. And so lots of women these days are having trouble with conception, right? They're having trouble getting pregnant. And did you notice a pattern of your ability to conceive before you lost the weight versus after you lost the weight? And let's all remember, she lost this weight by eating only meat for 13 years, not from eating whole foods, plant-based diet, not from eating lean cuisine or joining Weight Watchers. She lost this weight by just eating meat. Or is Kelly frozen? Am I frozen? Are you there, Kelly? I think Kelly's frozen. Kelly, if you can still hear me, close out and then use that same link to come back in. And I'm going to show some more of your pictures because everybody's wanting to see. And then I see this question. I'll ask Kelly as soon as she comes back on. Oh, there you are. There you are. Okay, got it. Beautiful. No worries. We're back now. Okay. So somebody, C-Jax, wants to know, Kelly, how old are you?
I'm 43.
43. She looks rough, right? Damn. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I feel like I look 43, but what I feel like is don't compare me to other 43-year-olds. Look at how I looked at 25. I can't even imagine, honestly, if I had stayed on the path I was on, what that version of 43 would have looked like. And I don't have that before and after, right? I have myself compared to age 25. That's not exactly fair, but I don't know.
I think you may be hotter at 43 than you were at 25. But I still contend your husband hit a grand slam. You were cute as a button, no doubt.
Thank
cute
you.
As a button.
Thank you.
But compared to now, I think your 43-year-old self would, if you and your 25-year-old self went to a singles bar, I think you would get hit on more than your 25-year-old self.
Well, I would certainly be able to get up and enjoy myself more. That is true.
Exactly right. And now here's another before and after. What was going on with this before picture?
I was standing in the hallway of Presley Elementary School where I taught music, and they asked us, I don't remember exactly my age at that point. All of those were fairly close together. I was between 20 and 25.
Gotcha.
And
then in the after picture, how old are you here?
I don't know. It's pretty nondescript. I wear a lot of tank tops and shorts. That's not that old. It's at my last house. We moved here in January. So
you're probably in your 40s in the after picture.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And in your 20s in the before picture.
That's right.
I just want people to get a good concrete sense of what eating only meat for 13 years will do to the human body. It's very concerning. And I find it very concerning that you got this advice from a medical doctor, because, medical doctors don't get any training in nutrition in medical school. And so I don't know why you took Dr. Dunlap's advice to start with, because he's a doctor. He doesn't know anything about weight loss, but just luckily, coincidentally, his advice seems to have literally turned around your health journey. I'm blown away. I wish I could shake the man's hand. So back to reproduction.
Yeah.
A lot of women are having trouble with that. They're having trouble conceiving. And I want you to kind of talk about this. Were you eating only meat when you conceived any of your children? Were you eating only meat when you carried your children through pregnancy? Were you eating only meat when you breastfed your children? Because for many people, we've got 3,400 people listening right now. That sounds impossible. They're like, there's no way you could be pregnant and eat only meat. You would have vitamin and mineral deficiencies. There's no way you could make enough breast milk for your baby if you're eating only meat. Tell us the story of your 3 pregnancies.
Okay, one of the reasons I went full-blown, all-in, high-fat carnivore was because I wanted to get pregnant. By that point, my husband and I had been married almost 8 years, and we really wanted a kid. So all of the first few years, I wasn't eating much meat at all. I was, just dieting and eating a standard American diet, but trying to do low-fat. No babies then. Then when I went to Dr. Dunlap's version that he told me, what he didn't say, and that's okay, I forgive him 100%, but what he didn't say was fat is really important. So when he told me to eat meat, I didn't truly appreciate that fatty meat was really key. So even then, I still didn't get pregnant. I lost weight, but I didn't get pregnant. And so when I discovered some online carnivores in 2009, this is the Charles Washington Zeroing In on Health group. I said, my real goal at this point is I just want to get pregnant and I want to feel a little bit better. And they said, oh, and I was still having cravings. And they were like, cravings after you've been doing this for 5 years? I said, well, yes. And they started asking questions. They realized you're still drinking diet soda. I was like, is that bad? I didn't know. And they said, well, that's why you have cravings right there. You're drinking something sweet every single day. You're going to keep having cravings forever until you cut that out. So that was the day, October 23rd, 2009. That's when I quit diet soda forever. And that's also when I increased my fat. And that's what they told me. They said, if you want to feel like you are on fire, girl, up your fat. I said, oh, okay. I was a little bit nervous. I did gain about 23 pounds at that point, and that was terrifying. But what they kept saying to me was, you haven't been eating enough. You've been avoiding fat. You really need to just eat. This weight is temporary, or maybe you need it in order to conceive. I was like, well, okay. So I went all in, and I was pregnant. It took about 7 months. And I got pregnant. I stayed carnivore through that pregnancy. About the time my child, Julia, turned 1, I was pregnant with Thomas, and I stayed carnivore through that pregnancy. And then 3.5 years later, Annie was born. So I have 3 now, and I total breastfed for 5 years total.
Yep. So you guys, let's make this very clear for people. You guys were married, and I assume sexually active.
Yeah.
Right. Just assuming. For how many years? While you were overweight or obese and you didn't have any luck conceiving, then when you started the all meat diet, you still didn't have much luck because you were eating very lean meat, because that's what your mama told you. Always cut the fat off, right?
Yes.
But then when you started eating fatty meat, how long after that before you were knocked up?
Okay, I would have been married 3 years eating carbs, 5 years eating a lower fat version of carnivore. And then I started full-blown, full-fat carnivore, like ribeyes and steaks and all that, in October, and I got pregnant in June.
Nice. And so conception really wasn't working for you when you were obese and eating a plant-based diet. And then even when you went, and I'll tell you, Kelly, you're exactly right about the fatty meat. I have women all the time. They're like, I'm still having cravings. I'm never full. I have no energy. And so Neisha and I start asking them, what kind of meat are you eating? And invariably, it's always the leanest cuts they can find. They're trimming off all the fat. They're draining all the fat. And it's like, honey, no, stop that. Not only do you need fat to burn for fuel, that's going to help the fatigue, but your body uses that fat to build hundreds of different things, including your hormones, including sex hormones, which are integral if you're going to get knocked up. Yes. They also make every cell membrane in your body has fat in it. It's made of fat. Your brain, your nerves, all that stuff's made of fat. So a lot of people are worried, like, well, if I eat a lot of fat, then I'm not going to burn my fat. And that's the thing they don't know is they think that when they eat fat, that's just fuel. And that's not true. Everybody knows we use protein for building blocks. I get that. That seems just to be common sense. Yeah. But many people do not understand that you use fat as a building block for hundreds of different things, including babies and breast milk. And so let's talk. You had no problem through all your 3 pregnancies. And then so now did you breastfeed your babies? Little personal babies, Kelly will tell us. Okay.
Yes. So Julia only wanted breast milk for about a year, and then she was over it. No, I'd nursed her from myself for about a year, and then I had frozen milk that I gave her for a few months after that. But by 18 months, she was totally off of it and eating food. My son Thomas, 21 months, and then Annie, 2.5 years. I thought that child was never going to wean, and then she finally declared she was done. But yeah, now
and
look,
so
when somebody asks,
let's be clear, you breastfed your 3rd baby and now you kind of had your babies back to back to back.
Yes.
Right. Which most doctors, if they study human nutrition and reproduction, they know that when you do that, the mom is very often nutrient depleted. Mm-hmm. And 2nd and 3rd kids will sometimes be shorter. They'll be less vigorous. That happens. That's very common. But somehow you were eating only meat. You were able to have 3 kids almost back to back to back. And the last one you breastfed for 2.5 years. And you had enough breast milk. This beautiful baby didn't starve to death. Interesting. And so obviously now your babies today, everybody is wonderful. They're beautiful. They're intelligent.
The reason I laughed about the littlest one or the youngest being small, she's so tall. She's one of the tallest kids in her class. She runs like 95th percentile on height. Yes, they're good kids. They're smart. I'm very, very happy.
Interesting. Let's talk about dairy, Kelly Hogan, meat eater for 13 years. Yes. Do you drink milk? Do you eat dairy? What's up with what's your take on dairy?
All right. I love dairy, and I think it can be a wonderful part of a carnivore diet, especially when somebody's trying to get off of carbohydrates. If you need all of the cheese at first, have all of the cheese. But over time, I have found that my skin just looks a little better. My weight stays 5 to 10 pounds lower if I only have dairy occasionally. So if I go to a party and they've got a charcuterie tray, I'm not opposed to having some, but it's not something I have daily. And I currently say 5 times a month. And yes, I keep a checklist on my fridge so I can keep myself honest. So about 5 times per month, I'll have dairy. And the rest of the time, I do not. And if people ask me, well, how do you get any calcium?
Right. How do you get your calcium? How do you get your vitamin C? How do you get all that stuff?
So for 10 years, I was literally eating burger patties. Now I can say, well, if you want more calcium, you can eat sardines. And I do have some sardines. You and I talked about it on my channel. Yep. I enjoy a good can of sardines. And if you get the kind with bones, it actually has as much calcium as a full glass of milk. But I didn't have sardines one single time for 10 years. And when my doctor would do my blood work, calcium levels were perfectly fine. Nothing.
Gotcha. Now Gina's confused, so I'm going to pull up one of your before and after pictures. Gina says, "Why no veg?" This is why, Gina. on the left, she was eating lots of veg. Mm-hmm. On the right, she had been eating only meat for probably 10 years at that point, 9, 10, 11 years.
Yes.
So the reason that she stopped eating the veg, Gina, is because she had chronic recurrent boils in her skin. She had chronic recurrent cellulitis. She was obese, if not severely obese. I don't know what your BMI was back then, but it looks to me like you were probably severely obese. Let me throw up another couple of pictures here for Gina. There's another before and after Gina. That's why she stopped eating the veg.
And there's another reason too.
Look at that picture. Where were you going in that after picture?
I didn't even. I was in a dressing room. I started to say I didn't buy that dress, but yes, I did. I was thinking.
I hope you did.
I did. I bought that dress. It was at Kmart, by the way.
You make that Kmart dress look good. Yeah.
Thank you. Another reason I do not eat veg at all is I used to have IBS really bad. So I would alternate.
So good. Yes. Let's talk about that. So you used to have irritable bowel. I didn't know that about you. Back when you were eating lots of veg, you had, how severe was your IBS? What were your symptoms? And what did you notice when you changed to a meat-only diet?
So I would alternate. The women in my family tended to have constipation pretty badly. But then it was like if you weren't completely constipated, then you were running to the bathroom with like stomach cramps and upset stomach. My mom had always dealt with it. She had taught me like some mind tricks. Like if you tell yourself you're okay and that you can make it to a bathroom, I was like, okay, I had the training. I knew what to do. My grandmother, bless her, when she had to go to the bathroom, like number 2, you knew it was going to be a long time because it was an event. Yes. And that's how I grew up too. And once I cut out all veg completely, it was a non-issue. Digestion just fantastic now. So I think, the narrative of you got to have more fiber. I was drinking fiber, taking fiber pills. I was trying all of the fiber, and it just made it worse.
And so looking back now, you can actually see that really the truth of the matter is that the more fiber you ingested, the worse your bowel health was. Is that what you're telling us?
That's what I'm telling you, Dr. Berry. That's right. Interesting, right?
That sounds highly suspicious. I don't know if we should believe that or not. Do you guys think Kelly's full of crap? I think she's probably not full of crap.
That's right.
She's a carnivore now, and her bowels work perfectly. So Gigablade says, do you drink any vitamins or food supplements? Do you take a bunch of multivitamins or supplements?
No, I don't. But I'll tell you that recently, after I talked to you back in January, I started adding 2 drops of the Lugol's iodine.
Yes.
Most every day. Now, if I have had some sardines, then sometimes I'll think, well, I'm probably good for a day or 2. Yep. And the reason I started doing that was I was having just a little bit of chest tenderness. When my kids would hug me, they're like right at that height now. I was like, dudes, be easy. And then I realized, I think that's me. I think I'm just a little tender. It took care of it, just like you said. Done. Gone. Yep. And it was partly because I suspect I eat very cheap eggs, very cheap beef. I was not eating fish very often at that point. And how you described it to me was when we're eating these things where you're just not getting iodine. Also, I was using non-iodized salt, so I wouldn't have been getting hardly any. So now I've incorporated sardines, 2 drops of iodine, and Danny Conway, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she has been doing lab work in the keto world for 15 years, and she's a carnivore. She had suggested only a couple weeks ago, I've been doing this, vitamin D just drops in the morning. Yep. So I thought, I'll try that. I feel just as good as always, but I'm not opposed to the idea. I've never tested low for vitamin D. But
right. I understand. Now, a lot of doctors think as long as your vitamin D is above 30, that's perfect, but really it needs to be from 50 to 100.
Yeah, Danny says at least 40. She's like, at least.
Totally agree. Now I want to go back for a second. Something you said. You said that your kids are big enough now that when you hug them, they basically they were bumping up against your breast and they were tender.
Yes.
And so I want every woman listening, or everybody listening who loves a woman, to listen to this. Fibrocystic breast disease, and this is not what this is about, but this is so important. It's so undertreated. Is 99.999% of the time an iodine deficiency. So you were starting to have that breast tenderness when somebody would touch them, not like punch you in the boob, but just a little touch. That was painful. What happened after you started ensuring through diet and through your Lugol's that you were getting enough iodine? What happened to your breast tenderness at that point?
Oh, it didn't even take a week. Like 48 hours, I could tell a difference. I was like, oh, okay, great. And I didn't let that go along at all. As soon as I figured something was going on, I scheduled a talk with you because I had heard you mention breast tenderness and iodine. And I was like, we need to talk about that.
Uh-huh.
and
it's a big deal.
Yes.
Millions of women suffer from fibrocystic breast disease or just overly tender breasts that have not been diagnosed by their doctor. And iodine, either eating the iodine-rich foods that I talk about in my YouTube video about that, or using 1 or 2 drops of Lugol's, 2%, 1 or 2 drops, not 1 or 2 droppers full.
No.
That the breast tenderness was gone. What did you say? A few days or a week?
Yeah, I think it was like 48 hours, but definitely it was less than a week. I ordered it the very day you talked to me about it, and it came quickly, maybe 2 days, and then I started it, and so it was less than a week after our conversation. It was gone.
Gotcha. Cyrus says he's having electrolyte problems on the carnivore diet. What would you recommend?
Especially if somebody is a new carnivore and they're just adapting. I do see people who feel lethargic if they don't take some electrolytes. I always recommend unsweetened, especially if you're trying to get rid of a sweet craving. But, LMNT or a company that doesn't have any sweeteners in it, you can make your own, and I have done it at home. Yep. The snake juice type recipes.
Absolutely.
And, just a really cheap, you can order those packets too. Do I think it's something everybody has to do forever? Well, I have only done it a few times ever, had some electrolytes, and it happens to be like right now, it's really hot. I don't know about where you are.
Very hot.
And if I sweat a lot, then I'll just have, I have a 2-liter bottle of water where I put in some Redmond salt and a little bit of the edible Epsom salt for the magnesium and no salt for the potassium. About a tablespoon of each. And then I'll just take a few sips on that throughout the day just to ensure that I'm not, losing too much in sweat.
I love it. That's an excellent plan. So Cronker wants to know if you've ever walked in front of a mirror or a window and went like, who is that hottie? And then you realize that it was you. And I'm going to put your before picture back up.
Okay. So that picture, by the way, I was on a cruise ship because it was my honeymoon.
Oh,
honeymoon, yeah. So I was very happy, and 24. I was going to be 24 in less than a month in that picture. It was a good day, but I remember thinking as my brand new husband took my photo, I just felt very insecure in that moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can tell, but I had pretty bad acne too. You can kind of see it there. I was on Accutane, had pretty bad acne issues that have cleared up with diet also. Yeah, you can see I'm pretty splotchy there.
Yeah.
And I was
looks like you tried to do a little cover up, but didn't do a great job.
That's right. I tried real hard actually, because newlywed. I really wanted to be adorable.
Well, let's talk about that. We've talked about other skin problems. Let's talk about acne. What was your experience with acne on a plant-based diet? And then how did that change when you transitioned to eating only meat for the last 13 years? How did your skin change, and how has it been?
So the acne issue improved a lot even before I went high fat, but even better after that. So even for the 5 years when I cut out the carbs and just ate meat, even with diet sodas, I still had much better skin. I wasn't pregnant, so it didn't fix everything. It needed fat for some things, but the skin issue, that cleared up a lot, and I went off of all medicine at that point. As for the Cronker question about walking past the mirror, Dr. Berry, I was about 260 pounds in all of my dreams until even the last couple of years.
So you're telling me 5 years ago, even though you look like you do now, when you dreamed about yourself, you look like this before picture. And yes, C4 Black, that is the same person.
Yes. And I would wake up almost every single, I don't dream frequently, so it wasn't every day, but every time I would have a dream, I would wake up and again be almost startled when I would look in the mirror, because it took several years for my brain to catch up.
That's amazing. Now, you said the word brain, so I'm going to segue off that. Let's talk about your mental health. And I'm not necessarily talking about mental health diagnoses. You may have had some, I don't know. But I'm talking about just your self-esteem, your positive mental attitude or negative mental attitude. How did those things change as you transitioned from eating a plant-based diet, that's effectively what you were eating, to eating only meat for 13 years? How did your mental health change?
So there was a definite difference when I cut out the carbs the first time. It improved mental health. I used to have a lot of anxiety. Obviously, I had a lot of self-esteem issues that were tied to body image as well. And some of that improved just by losing some weight. Like, oh, people would tell me, gosh, you're looking good. So that helped some. But I still had the anxiety. When I added more fat to my diet, tremendous calm. They call it the zero carb zen, the ZC zen. I felt that. I felt so much more peaceful. And Dr. Berry, it's probably been 8 weeks ago now, I went to my parents' house and they had put some ribs in the air fryer and they looked not saucy. And my mom said, now I did put just a little bit of, she named a barbecue sauce. She said, but there's no sugar in it. I said, oh, it's your mama. I was trying to be easy to please.
Right.
And I ate some of those ribs. I woke up that night with the first bout of anxiety, deep anxiety, to the point of like, everybody hates me. I'm doing nothing with my life. I was awake during the night for hours, had leg cramps for the first time in years. And I looked at the bottle the next day. Two things: soy and wheat flour. I had gluten. I was poisoned. It was awful. So I tell people, if you are still suffering with anxiety and depression and you are having gluten, that is a major trigger. And soy is for a lot of people too.
Oh yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. So, did you ever take prescription medication for anxiety in the past?
No, I did not. No.
Okay, you just dealt with it.
I did. I just thought, pull yourself together.
Yep,
And I could go to work. I wasn't having to miss work for it, but I would have to like psych myself up. I was a teacher, so I knew I was going to go in front of all these kids. I had to really. It was a struggle.
How many times through the years has a student said, Miss Hogan, you're my favorite teacher? How many hundreds of times have you heard that? Do not lie.
I was the music teacher for 21 years. Music teacher. Of course they like the music teacher. It's the most fun subject ever.
I love it. So I've got two questions here.
Okay.
Somebody said, what would you recommend? They've been on carnivore for a while, and now they still have weight to lose, and their weight loss has stalled. Also, I saw a couple of people said they tried carnivore and they gained 5 or 10 pounds right off the bat, and it spooked them, and they stopped it. So how would you answer these two people?
Okay, well, I've got a little list that I sometimes go through with people. So first of all, if you are a brand new carnivore and you have been restricting calories for a long time and now you are eating, you might gain like I did when I went all in, and your body might just need it because it's hoarding every little bit it can get, and it will not do that forever as long as you continue to give yourself a steady supply of nutrients. Also, plateaus and gains are all part of normal weight loss. It tends to go up and down. It's not like I steadily lost this 120 pounds. I definitely had some plateaus and times when I gained a little and then lost and gained. It's normal.
Do you remember, I'm sorry, Kelly, do you remember what the longest plateau or weight loss stall was, roughly?
No, I really don't. But I just remember I remember feeling frustrated. Like, maybe this is it. Maybe this is all I'm going to lose. And it was like, well, that's pretty good. And I would just stick with it and it would start again. Definitely wasn't just a few days or probably even a few weeks. But I remember at times thinking this is probably just what it's going to be. And then it wasn't. Stick with it.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, you can tweak macros. If I ask somebody, do you think you're eating leaner, or, they give me an idea of what they're eating, then I can say, okay, if you haven't tried high fat carnivore, try that. If they're eating all of the butter sticks, all right, let's try something else then. Let's try not grilled chicken breast, for heaven's sakes, never the grilled chicken breast. But, burger patties maybe would definitely get it more to a 70% of calories from fat versus all the butter, 90, 80%. So you can tweak around with macros. You can reduce your cortisol by doing things we hear about all the time now: getting good sleep, getting more sun, getting a hobby, talking it out, walking around barefooted on the grass, doing some deep breathing, some walks, gentle movement. Sometimes that helps people. If you feel like you're an overeater, and there are people with insatiable appetites, and that has always been me, you can have a little less variety in your diet. And I know that seems crazy because we're already just eating meat, but even like less variety of meats tends to help people get in touch with hunger cues. So that's one reason I did burger patties for so long. Like, I knew if I was hungry, and people would say, does that not get boring? Never if I'm hungry. It was only boring if I was bored and just eating at like mouth hunger or eating out of boredom. So if you decrease some variety, it can help you get in touch with that more. Some people say increasing vitamin D. There is some research showing that it can help with the weight loss stall, either by getting lots of sun or vitamin D supplement. If you are under eating, there are lots of chronic undereaters out there who tell me they are stalled, and I have them fill out a TDEE, a total daily energy expenditure calculator, and it tells them you should be eating 2,000 calories. And I say, for a few days, just find out, what are you eating? They journal it to find out it's 1,200. Well, if you are eating 800 calories below the TDEE and you are not losing weight, And typically these are the same people who end up with thyroid issues, hair loss, poor sleep, no libido. You're an undereater. So they will need to slowly increase to bring it up close, because your body is going to hang on to it all and never let go of any body fat if you do that.
Absolutely. Now, I'm going to throw up a before picture here. Keep talking, Kelly. This is Kelly Hogan. She's been eating only meat for 13 years for you people joining late. This is her before picture. This is when she was in her 20s.
Yes.
She's now 43 beautiful years old.
Thank you.
And so continue, Kelly. I'm sorry. I just wanted people to know who you were and why you think you have the audacity and the authority to run your mouth like you're a doctor or a dietitian or something.
Yeah, I know. I tell people all the time, I am just a normal lady who is so excited about how I have felt for the last really 12 years, but even the few years before that, that I just can't stop talking about it. So it's not that I have authority. I'm just very excited about it. And then if somebody has, they can't lose weight, and they may have, some people suffer from volume addiction. So what I tell them is, if you want to make sure to get all of the fat that your body needs, so maybe you determine that in order to not be constipated, in order to feel happy, in order to all of these things, you need, I don't know, 120 grams of fat, but you get all of your calories in, and then you're still feeling like, but I want to feel really full. Then you can have some leaner meats for the rest of the day to get like that stretch, but get your fat and your protein, get your fat first. I really feel like that's very important.
100%.
To make sure you get your fat in. And then if you want to just stuff yourself silly on some shrimp and leaner meats, go for it. Because some people really do have a volume addiction where they get that dopamine hit from just feeling super full. And so then they may end up really eating more than their body actually can utilize. Even on meats, it's not common, I should say. When most people cut out the carbs and they just eat meat and animal products, most people are just going to lose weight. But there are the people who crave tons of volume, and that can be helpful to them. Hello, Neisha and Baby Blue.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. This is what happens when you
eat a lot of meat.
That's it right there.
The same thing happened to me, and it's pure perfection. You look fabulous, darling.
Thank you. I just
Nothing in the world like a new baby. Nothing.
You got that right. You got that
I'm
right.
so happy for y'all.
Thank you
so much. Somebody asked Kelly, they're 50 and they're diabetic, and their question was, can somebody like me do this carnivore diet thing?
Somebody like them really should, in my opinion, do that. Yes. More than, truly. You can get away with a whole lot. For some people, I didn't, but some people get away with a lot in their 20s and 30s. And then it can really start to catch up in 50s and 60s. If you don't want to end up on all kinds of diabetes medications or losing limbs, and yes, I would suggest get a grip on it now in your 50s. The 50s is what? The new 40, right?
Yeah, 50's young. 50 ain't old, trust me.
But it can,
I'm 53. She's 43. I promise you, neither one of us act old.
no.
Just ask our spouses if you don't believe us. Yeah, no, we don't act old at all. 40 is the new 20, 50 is the new 30. If any of you guys listening, if you suffer from prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, even type 1 diabetes, LADA, MODY, any of those diabetic issues, you 100% need to convert to a carnivore diet. Now, if you're a type 1 diabetic or an LADA and you have to inject insulin, you need to come at this slowly with the help of your doctor over 2 or 3 months. But if you're just a type 2 diabetic and you're taking pills or you're not taking pills, you can start carnivore and convert to just meat only over a week or two, and immediately you'll start to reverse your type 2 diabetes and reverse your overweight or obesity, reverse your fatty liver, lower your blood pressure, reverse your metabolic syndrome. I could just go on and on and on, Kelly Hogan. Somebody asked about skin tags. Back when you were severely obese, did you have skin tags, and did they change at all when you went to a meat-only diet?
Yes, I did have quite a few. I have one left. Just one.
Same for me.
Yes. It's like my one last reminder that the rest just like were able to like pick, just came off.
Yeah, exactly. It's very common. Very common. More than likely, the skin tags, they're definitely genetic, right? You're probably like me. You're from skin taggy, moly people, and you're just going to have a few. But back when I was severely obese, I had skin tags on my eyelids. I had them under my arms. I had them in other places we won't go into. But now that I've been a carnivore, well, first of all, keto for 7 years, carnivore now for almost 4. I've got one tiny little skin tag left on my whole body. And I used to have, honestly, probably 25 or 30.
Wow. Okay. I never counted mine. I know I probably just had several, but again, I was in my 20s. I don't think I probably didn't have more than, say, 8. But now I've got just one.
Yep, that's perfect. That's a great victory. Okay, let's talk about some common. So if you guys don't know, this is Kelly Hogan. She has been eating only meat for the last 13 years, and she did not die. She did not develop scurvy. She did not develop any vitamin or mineral deficiencies. No. She conceived, she carried, and she delivered 3 beautiful, healthy babies, and she breastfed all 3 of those while eating only meat. So there's a lot of myths out there, Kelly, as you know, in low carb and paleo. Oh, you've got to have this plant for breast supply or this herb for breast supply. And in fact, everything you need to make the most luxurious, nutritious breast milk on the planet is to eat lots of fatty meat, have a lot of skin-to-skin contact with your baby, nurse on demand, and naked, skin-to-skin as many hours a day as you can. And drink lots of water and get plenty of salt. Like literally, that is the formula for making the best breast milk in the world. That went for Neisha. That went for all 3 of your pregnancies. But there's so many women that are very worried because they've heard all this advice. Oh, I've got to eat rutabagas, or I've got to eat mangoes, or I've got to eat this for my breast supply. All that stuff is foolishness. Yeah. Okay. None of that is necessary. What's your take? Do you eat liver, Kelly Hogan? I want to know, how often do you eat liver?
Okay. So in 2020, I had heard for the last few years at that point, liver all the way. Liver is so important. I was like, ugh, I have never even eaten liver. Well, I did as a little kid because my grandma would fry it and fix it, but never as an adult had I eaten liver at all. And in 2020, in the fall, I said, okay, I'm going to try a month of liver. And I said, if it goes well, I'll go longer. And I was eating beef liver, chicken liver. I had tried raw frozen beef liver. I was trying liver pate. Vanessa Spina has a great bacon liver pate. Yes. Every day. I made sure to at least have 1 spoonful, if not, an ounce or so of liver as this experiment. Well, at first I thought I was catching a cold, which is unusual for me. I was like, gosh, I'm wiping and I'm sniffing and my eyes are getting watery. It's like, it almost feels like allergies. Then by the end of 30 days, I felt so bad. And I have to tell you, Dr. Berry, liver tastes awful to me. Awful. Now, there are some people who tell me liver tastes good to them. And so, to which I say, okay, enjoy, right? It's part of the animal. If you love it, you feel great. But when it touches my mouth, and I am not a picky eater, it tastes like rancid. All the ways I kept trying it. Now the liver bacon pate, there's bacon, so it was doable. All right. At the end of 30 days, I felt really bad. So I called it off. I said, I did it, done, month over. And within 48 hours, I felt like myself. I've come to, I really think, and I've surveyed in my groups that I do y'all eat liver? There are some people who crave it, and there are some people who cannot, it can't touch their tongue. They hate it so much. And I think our gut-brain-tongue connection is so strong that if you love it, you probably need it. And if you abhor it, you probably don't.
Yep. Now, and I think that's probably right. Once you've converted to a proper human diet, you've given your body time to adjust to it, time for the inflammation to get better. My good friend and yours too, Amber O'Hearn, she will go for months and despise liver, but then all of a sudden she'll start to crave it and she'll eat it for 2 or 3 days. Then she'll despise it again for 2 or 3 months. And I think once you've removed all the inflammatory foods, all the foods that confuse your hormones and confuse your immune system, and your body gets to calm down and relax. and you can actually hear your body's feedback. I think you're exactly right. The gut, brain, tongue connection, that's very, very important. And you can actually listen to it and use it as meaningful feedback. Now, again, Kelly Hogan, I'm getting lots of questions about loose skin. Now, this is Kelly Hogan. This is her before and after. This is after how much total weight did you lose, Kelly?
120 pounds.
120 pounds. And she birthed 3 kids.
Yeah.
And this after picture, that is her, 2 years ago. That was her body after losing over 100 pounds and having 3 kids. So if you guys are worried about loose skin, first of all, loose skin won't kill you. Loose skin, of course, you don't want that. But it's my contention that if you have some degree of daily intermittent fasting, which you either do consciously or maybe it just happens, you're going to, through the process of autophagy, you're going to shrink that loose skin to some degree. Some people like Kelly are very fortunate. Her autophagy was strong, like the force was strong with that one. And she just ate up and auto-digested and got rid of all that loose skin that she had to have had at one point. Now, this is a very slow process. A lot of people will be like, well, I've been carnivore for 3 months and I still got all this loose skin. And I'm like, look, the only way you're going to get rid of loose skin fast is to go see the plastic surgeon. That's the only fast way. Carnivore and intermittent fasting to some degree, that's going to take many months to do for it to auto-digest that skin.
Or years. I mean, really, a few years. Right. If you're talking about, 120 pounds and a few babies. But I did not need to go have any type of cold, they've got like these cold burn fat off, loose skin removals. I did not have to do that. I couldn't have, even if I had wanted to, and it was tempting. I did not have the budget for any of that. So time and a lot of meat. And also it won't be as bad as if you starve yourself, like on Biggest Loser, how they literally starve themselves because I had so much protein the entire way. So I didn't have to like cannibalize myself to do it. I continued to eat.
I love it. That's such brilliant advice. So Tracy wants to know, she currently Tracy, she hates the texture of the fats.
Yes.
So what would you recommend for Tracy? And I want to know, did you, when you first started trying to eat the fats, was it kind of yucky for a minute?
Yeah, there was a time where in my family, you trimmed all that off and trashed it. You don't eat that. Oh my gosh. And some fat is gristly. You occasionally get, I don't particularly love New York strips because that fat on there is kind of tough. Now, ribeye fat now. So Tracy, just because you don't love it right now, you might say in a year or two, if you were to do carnivore for a while, tastes do change. But even if you always hate it, you can always take the fat, cut it up into little bits. You can either air fry it or put it in a skillet, get it nice and crispy. You can add butter. You can take rendered bacon fat and smear that on your meat. There are ways to do it without eating what some people describe as like globby. I get that. But if it's crisped up really nice in a skillet or air fryer, it's pretty tasty to most people.
Oh, 100%. And I'll have to admit, Kelly, when I first started doing this, I didn't love fat. Okay. But I knew I had done the research on the physiology and the actual nutrition content. I'm like, dude, you need to shut the hell up and grow up and eat the fat. Okay. It's good for you. And so I would take a tiny little, like if it had a big fat strip on it, I would take my knife and cut just maybe a 1 centimeter cube. And then I would mix that with a big bite of lean meat. Yeah. And I kind of had to train myself. But now I totally agree with you. If a ribeye if it's seared just right, or you've made it crispy in the air fryer, holy hell, I would rather have the fat than the lean.
Oh, yeah, for sure. My kids all came out of the womb, I think, craving fat. They love it so much. When they were little, we called it the squishy. And they would say, more squishy. And if you don't like fat, I think it was Tracy, that's probably like, oh my gosh. But if you love and crave the fat like Dr. Berry and I do, then you get it, all the squishy.
Yes. For some of us, it is a learning process, and that there's many tricks that people do to get the fat. Some people go so far as to freeze the fat, cut it up, and put it in little gelatin capsules and take it as a capsule until their body gets used to it. There's 1,000 tricks. But what the take-home message is you never trim off and throw away the fat. Do not do that. That fat is good for you in hundreds of ways. Figure out a way, slowly transition so that you're eating the fat. The fat is really, for many of us, the healthiest part, at least for a while on this journey. Now, Kelly Hogan has been eating only meat for 13 years. And this is what she looks like now. Let's throw up this before and after so everybody sees this. Okay. That's before, when she was eating a plant-based diet. The picture after was 2 years ago. She's 43 years old now, of eating only meat for 13 years. And so Beth says, Kelly, do you ever want to eat pies or cookies ever? I sometimes have a hard time. What do you say about cravings like that?
All right. So during the 5 years where I was eating meat, but still having diet soda and some sugar-free Jell-O. So it said 0 carbs, right? 0 carbs, but artificial sweeteners. Beth, I wanted cookies and pie all day, every day. It was a fight. I did not eat them, but I wanted them desperately. It was just, oh my gosh, the cravings. Once I got rid of all sweet taste, I will not even chew sugar-free gum. I will not have a TikTok because the switch was turned off. And if you've ever struggled with a sweet tooth and the switch goes off, you do not turn it back on. It's the greatest freedom of all time. And I was so addicted before that now there is no cookie or pie on earth that would be worth turning that back. It's partly
beautifully said. Beautifully said.
Thank you. It's partly because I feel so much better, but it is really that sugar craving switch. So if you can ever get it off, you will understand, Beth. You will not want to go near it again. It's not that I didn't love it. I loved it so much. And now I'm free from it. And I tell people, I'll say, like, Beth, do you ever sit around craving cocaine? And most people are like, no, because no, it's not in your system. And I don't sit around craving cookies and pie because it is so far out of my system that it's as funny to me as if I were to sit around and go, man, I just wish I had some cocaine right now. I don't.
I never say that. It's funny, right? It's funny. Right. Now, so I've got a couple of questions like, don't you find this diet very restrictive?
Okay.
And I put your before and after picture back up, and I want you to talk about feeling restricted.
Yes.
Now you, this beautiful woman at 43 years of age, and then we have a picture of you when you were 23 years old and 250 pounds.
Yeah.
Do you feel more restricted now on your meat-only diet, or did you feel more restricted when you were 23 and eating pretty much whatever the hell you wanted? Talk about restriction.
So I'll tell you that in high school, when I would restrict calories, I felt very restricted. I was incredibly hungry. If you weren't here at the beginning of this, I was eating 1 lean cuisine per day and then binge episodes because I had to just get some calories in and I would lose control. Okay, then fast forward to then in my 20s when I was obviously losing control more than I was restricting. What was restricting me then was the boils, the weight, my self-confidence, the sugar cravings, trying all day to keep from eating more sugar. So it's like I was all the time going, oh, you've had too much. Well, I just want one more. Yeah, but it was this mental tug of war that is exhausting. That was constant restriction. Even though I didn't look in that picture like I was restricting, I was just bad at it. I was mentally.
Well, no, you were bad at it. No, you weren't. I'm gonna contradict you.
Okay.
What you were trying to do back when you were in your 20s, you were trying to semi-starve yourself permanently.
Yes.
And think about all you guys, everybody listening, all 4,431 of you guys, think about that. If I locked an animal in a cage and it's supposed to get 1,000 calories a day, whatever kind of animal, and I only gave that animal 400 calories a day, I'm starving that animal. That is cruelty.
Yes.
That is suffering. That animal is literally suffering on a daily basis. How long is it going to be? Two things are going to happen. Either that animal's going to get so hungry it's going to break out of that cage and go find something to eat, or it's going to die.
Yeah.
And so many people are beating themselves up, and I don't want to hear it. No, you were not a failure. What you were misled by all the mainstream media, by Jenny Craig and Lean Cuisine and Weight Watchers. They were trying to say, oh, you just need to eat less and move more. You need to calorie restrict for the rest of your life.
Yes.
So another way of saying that is, oh, you should just starve yourself for eternity. That's really what they were telling you to do. That is idiotic. That is sadistic. That's cruel. No human on the planet has enough willpower to starve themselves for the rest of their lives. And so you were not a failure. You were just following the wrong idiotic advice. And it's only when you got excellent advice from Dr. Dunlap that you said, oh, okay, so I have permission now to just eat lots of meat. And so she started eating only meat. And after 13 years, this is what happened, guys. Take a good look at this. This is very important.
And so this doesn't feel restrictive to me at all. And there are boundaries. There are boundaries that I know I can't cross because I don't want to be re-addicted again. I don't want to be obese again. I don't want to be inflamed again. I do not want boils again. Those things were true restrictions. And now I just have some food rules that keep me safe and healthy. And I can eat unlimited amounts of food that is actually delicious. I love my food. Somebody asked, what do I eat most days? I still eat a lot of burger patties. I eat flanking ribs. Give
us a day. Give us a typical day, Kelly Hogan. What's a typical day for Kelly Hogan?
If I wake up and I am really hungry, then so every single morning I scramble eggs for my kids. And if I am also really hungry, which is not most days, but I will throw 5 eggs in there for myself and have that with some butter. Most days I am not hungry until about 11:30. At 11:30-ish, noon, I have about a pound of meat is what it takes for me to feel like done, satisfied. I could eat more than that, but I also know I'm going to eat again at dinner. So a pound of meat is like, good. I feel happy. I do not think about food again until dinner comes. When dinner comes, I eat another pound of meat and I call it a day. That's literally it. Now, I'll say this. The pound thing is silly if you think about different meats, though. So if I were going to eat pork belly, I could not eat a pound of pork belly and then another pound of pork belly. I'm sorry, but that is about 5,000 calories. I can't hold that much.
Yep.
If it were a leaner meat, if I was having chicken thighs, it's going to probably take more than a pound. But if I'm eating like a 70-30, that's burger patties and some, a cheaper steak. I don't always eat ribeye, but even ribeye, I can handle a pound. And if it's a fatty ribeye, I'll probably only need half a pound for dinner.
Yep. So now I'm going to let you get to your dinner. I know it's getting cold. I'm very sorry. I apologize profusely. Chocolate wants to start this. What are your beginner steps? Step 1, step 2, step 3. What should chocolate do to start with a meat-only diet?
Okay. If chocolate is eating a lot of chocolate, maybe start with that.
First, change your handle.
Yes, that's going to be very triggering and hard to work with. And while you're getting rid of the handle, also get rid of the junk in the house, if at all possible. I know some people might have a roommate or a spouse who says, you are not throwing out my ice cream, but maybe plead with them and say, look, I'm going to try to do something really big here. And it's going to take maybe a couple months for me to feel safe in my own home if it is here. So put it away, take it to work, lock it in your trunk. We've got to get it out of the house for a while. Bring in all of the animal products, anything that sounds appealing and quick and easy to grab. So I would recommend keeping a lot of cooked burger patties in the fridge, cooked bacon, hard-boiled eggs, scrambled eggs, butter, make omelets, cook chicken wings, get an air fryer, and then cook all of the meats and make it as simple as you can, because you are truly breaking an addiction for most people that I work with, at least. There are some addiction strategies out there, some coping mechanism, visualization, picture what you truly want and why you are doing this. Some meditation and breath work can calm your brain, because when you're having a craving, it feels like your brain is on fire, lit up like a Christmas tree. There are some ways to utilize that dopamine during a craving in order to do some addiction transference. So I teach a lot of strategies about how to utilize that anticipatory dopamine, getting some support, whether it's free support, immerse yourself on YouTube videos and podcasts, watch all of Dr. Berry's channel, maybe mine too. And then what else could they do? Make sure you're getting enough fat. Do not go hungry. Do
not portion control. Do not portion control. Do not portion control.
Eat. Really eat like it's your job, especially in the beginning. And then you'll start to figure out, am I truly hungry? Am I not? In the beginning, I would not even care. I would just eat the meat.
I love it. Now, Kelly, I'm going to let you get to your dinner. I've got all of Kelly's links to her YouTube channel. She has a coaching program. There's a link in the show notes below if you need a coach. You can tell she's a great coach. She was hundreds of students' favorite teacher before she retired from teaching, and she can be your favorite health transformation coach. There's a link below also to her Instagram. Kelly, wrap this up for us, and anything that's on your heart that you feel like you need to share with these folks, and then I'm going to let you go eat your dinner.
Okay. And I'm fine. I'm fine on the dinner part. It's good. If you are feeling overwhelmed with desperation right now, if you're out there and you feel like your goal is too great, your pain is too bad, that's money right there. Because one of the greatest keys to making a change is the pain that will inspire it. There's your motivation. Embrace that. Be like, oh my gosh, but this is huge. This is insurmountable. No, it's not. It's just going to inspire some change. Second thing you need is some education. And you're hearing, oh my gosh, this is a possibility. Maybe it's the carbs. It is. It's the carbs. Third thing is you need some hope. And that if I do nothing else, I hope I give somebody like some measure of hope that just the way things are today doesn't mean they have to always stay that way. And if you are desperate and in pain and you have some knowledge, a little bit of just an idea of something to try, and you have hope that it just might work, then throw on top of it a sprinkle of some support, maybe some YouTube videos for more education, other things that might be helpful. But those three things, you are on your way to your own most amazing success story. That's literally what it takes to have change. And, find somebody else who also believes in you, even if they don't completely believe in exactly what you're doing. Because I did not have many people for a long time who believed in what I was doing, but they at least believed in me. And tell them, look, I just need your support because I want to try something, and maybe a little encouragement can go a long way. But hope abounds. If you are listening to this, hope abounds. I don't care what your age is, your weight is, how many things you have tried. This could be the thing, and you'll never know until you give it a good go.
Absolutely. And I want to close with your before and after picture. If you guys listening, all 4,300 of you, if you currently feel like I don't have any hope for ever changing my health, ever getting rid of type 2 diabetes, ever getting rid of all this extra weight, ever getting rid of these skin problems, these boils, this eczema, this psoriasis, this acne, look at this before and after. She probably didn't have much hope back when she was in her 20s some days, but now I think that you can tell from this interview that she is nothing. She is the definition of hope now. She is ebullient. She's effervescent. She's happy. She's contented. She's complete now. She is the true Kelly Hogan that should have been on this planet for all these years, but we've only had access to this brilliant Kelly Hogan since Dr. Dunlap told her 13 years ago, stop eating the carbs, just eat the meat. And so if you'd like to one day, listener, listen to me, if you'd like to one day have an after, pick, and it may not be a picture, it may just be your mental health before and after, or your relationship before and after, or if it's maybe your picture before and after. If you'd like to one day be able to look back at your before picture, you got to do something about what you're currently doing and what you're currently eating. That's where it starts. It starts with the food. So I've got all of Kelly's links down below. If she touched your heart, and I know she did, a few of you guys, go and follow her forthwith. She has a coaching program. If you've fallen in love with her on this live and you'd like to work with her, there's a link in the show notes below. Kelly Hogan, I know Neisha and I love you to the moon and back. Thank you so much for doing this with me today. Final thought.
I love you both too. Thank you so much for letting me do this with you too. It's a true honor.
The honor's all mine. You've been to Carnivore for way longer than me. Ladies and gentlemen, Kelly Hogan, her links are down below. Thank you so much, my good friend. I'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.